Free trade agreements essentially act as enablers, giving a boost to trade between the partner nations. Under FTA, two trading partners provide duty-free access to a number of goods traded between them. At the same time, they liberalize norms to enhance trade in services and give a fillip to investments. In the recent past, the slow progress and the binding norms under WTO negotiations have been a limiting factor, and nations are engaging more bilaterally through the free trade agreements. India has been engaged in free trade negotiations with UK, Canada, Australia, Israel and United Arab Emirates. With Australia, interim FTA is likely to be in place by March this year, while the first round of negotiations with UK have already been held. In case of FTA between India and UAE, substantial progress has been made, and the stage is set for a historic signing of agreement between the two sides. In addition to removing the trade barriers, the Indian side is looking at investment protection measures and special facilities for Indian labor and expatriates. The negotiations for bilateral FTA under the ambit of India-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (CEPA) began in September 2021 with an ambitious timeline to close the deal by March 2022. Indian side was led by the Union Minister of Commerce and Industries Mr. Piyush Goyal and his counterpart Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi. In the year 2020-21, UAE was India's third largest trading partner with a bilateral trade worth $43.1 billion. Exports were valued at $16.7 billion, while imports were pegged at $26.7 billion. India's major imports from the UAE include petroleum and petroleum products, precious metals, gems and jewelry, minerals, chemicals and wood products. UAE has also investments worth $11 billion into India since 2000 and is among the top 10 investors in the country. On the other hand, India's major exports to UAE include petroleum products, precious metals, stones, gems and jewelry, minerals, food items such as cereals, sugar, fruits and vegetables, tea, meat and seafood, textiles, engineering and machinery products. Investments by Indian entities in the UAE amounted to about $85 billion, mostly in real estate during 2020-2021. India imported $10.9 billion worth of crude oil from the UAE in 2019-2020. The UAE also has a huge Indian diaspora, nearly 3 million Indian expatriates who remit home nearly $3 billion annually. Dubai is the top most visited tourist destination for Indians. According to analysts, India is seeking a duty-free market access on a whole range of products such as gem and jewelry, textiles and garments, engineering goods, etc. At the same time, strict rules of origin may be incorporated into the CEPA to ensure UAE should not be used by the third countries to ship their products to India at a concessional import duties. It may well include value addition in UAE for products to qualify for trade concessions from India. The other expectations are for a deal in the labor-intensive sectors to ensure free movement of skilled professionals and in turn give a boost to job opportunities in both the countries. During the first half of 2021, bilateral trade reached $21 billion, a growth rate of more than 70% compared to the first 6 months of the last year. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said at a recent interaction with the industry that India's goal is to become the number one trading partner of the UAE and that UAE is a gateway to Gulf Cooperation Council and all of Africa. The analysts see the deal as a win-win proposition for both India and UAE. The India-UAE FTA is expected to raise bilateral merchandise trade to $100 billion in 5 years from $43 billion in 2021. It also aims to more than double the bilateral services trade to $15 billion during this period. It comes at a time when UAE is seeking to more than double its non-oil trade with India to as much as $100 billion over 5 years as a part of its efforts to deepen ties with fast-growing economies beyond the Middle East. For India, the FTA is along the lines of its timelines for trade agreements with at least 3 countries, the UAE, the UK and Australia by 2022 as a part of its ambitious target of $500 billion worth of exports by the financial year 2023. Besides, UAE is the gateway to the Gulf region and Africa, a move which shows the dynamism and the far-sighted approach towards realizing this ambitious goal.